Begin today the Gemara on Daf Hey Amid Beis at the Mishnah towards the bottom of the Amid. Zok Teilige Mishnah al Pishnayim Eidim oy Shloisha Eidim Yuma Sameis. It says in the pasuk by the din of Eidos that it could be with either Shnayim Eidim, 2 Eidim, or Shloisha or 3 Eidim. Now, im iskayemes Eidos b'Shnayim, if testimony is with 2, Lama Parat HaKosa b'Shloisha. Why does the Torah say that it could be with 3? Obviously, 3 is good. Elo, so what the pasuk here is teaching is lahakish shloisha l'shnayim, or the other gersa here is shnayim l'shloisha. We compare 2 to 3. What's the comparison? Ma shloisha mizimin es shnayim, just like 3 Eidim. The second group that come to say that the first group that testified about the subject are false witnesses. So 3 can say this about 2. Afashnayim yezumu es a gimel. So too, if 2 are coming to testify against a group of 3, the 2 are believed against the 3 to tell us that they are false witnesses, even though there are only 2 against 3. From where do I know that this is true? Even if there are 100 Eidim that testified, and now only 2 are coming to say against these 100 Eidim, imanu yisim b'makom pleini, and their testimony is false. Talmud loymar Eidim. So the pasuk adds, it says Shnayim Eidim, and it says again Shloisha Eidim. From this I see that even if it's against 100, their hazameh will be mivatal the Eidus of all 100. Rab Shimon has a different interpretation why the Torah says Shnayim Eidim and Shloisha Eidim. Ma Shnayim einan aragin achi yiyu Shnayim zaymimin. Just like with 2 Eidim, the punishment of kashazamam only applies when both are found to be false witnesses. If only one of them is found to be an eid zaymim, then the einish of kashazamam does not apply, as the Gemara quoted before already. Av shloisha einen eragin, so too if it's 3 eidim that testify together, so they will not be killed for the einish of kashazamam. Ad sheyu shloshtan zaymimin, only if all 3 are eidim zaymimin. Okay, so this comes out to be a kula, according to Rab Shimon, that you have to be mazim all of them in order for the einish of kashazamim to apply. How do I know that this applies even if you have a group of Eidim, 100 that came and testify that in order to be mekayim the einish of kashazama, you have to be mazim all 100? Talmud loymar Eidim. So he learns it out from the extra word of Eidim. So Tosfos later on Davav Amid Beis points out that this is all for the, according to Rab Shimon here, this is all for the fulfillment of the punishment of kashazama, neherogin. But regarding the fact that if part of the group of Eidim were found to be Eidim Zaymimin, whether one of them or a few of them out of 100, the entire Eidus will be batal. Because, as we'll see soon in the Mishnah, the halacha of Nimtza Echad Mehem Karav Pasal, if part of the Eidus is found to be false or pasal, then the whole entire Eidus falls apart. So that's not what Rab Shimon was talking about. He's talking about the einish of kashazamam, that's only applied when all of the Eidim are found to be Eidim Zaymimin. Rabbi Akiva says, Leiboa Shlishi Lahakal. When the Torah says Shnayim Eidim and then it adds what seems to be extra, Shloisha Eidim, 3rd, it's not as a leniency, as it is according to Rab Shimon, that because it says Shloisha, it teaches that unless you mazim all 3, they'll be potter from the einish of kashazama. Rather, the pasuk here is coming to say a chumrah. So Rashi here explains that this halacha of Rab Shimon, according to Rabbi Akiva, is pashut. You don't need an extra pasuk to teach this, because it's understood that whether it's 2, whether it's 3, it's one group of Eidim, and you have to be mazim all of them. It's understood from the lashon of the pasuk, where it says the halacha of Eidim Zaymimin, Hine Eid Sheker Ha'eid, it has to be all of them together that are found to be false witnesses. So rather, it's coming to say a chumrah. What is the chumrah? That El Hachmir Olav, the last says Dinoi Kayotze Be'elu. It's coming to say that the 3rd has the same halacha of kashazamam like the other 2. And the pasuk is coming to say that you have to give him the einish as well, even though the 3rd one wasn't necessary to cause this misa to the one that they testified against, but nevertheless the 3rd that came along with them also gets the einish of kashazama. Ve'im kain onash hakosov lenitba la'ivri aveira If this is the einish that the Torah says for one that comes along with other edim that are doing the aveda, alachas kama v'kama, definitely yishalim schar l'nitfa la'isa mitzvah. That the Torah will give reward for the one that comes along with those that are doing the mitzvah, ka'isa mitzvah, like the ones that are needed, that are there originally for this mitzvah. Okay, so there are, first of all, regarding what Rabbi Kiva says here, in Rashi, it's mashma that he's not guided the word loibash dishi lahakal. That it's not the word. It's not here is not kula, but he just does not darshan like Rab Shimon, as I explained. Rashi explains the reason. Another thing that Rishonim say that the chiddush of Rabbi Kiva nitfa lo'isei avera is even in a case where the third aid is not saying the eidos together with the other two said eidos. Then the third comes along later to say eidos along with them. Even then he's going to get the einish of kashazomam together with them. And that's a point that Rabbi Kiva is machadish that Rab Shimon argues on. Now the Mishnah goes on to say, and simply this is Rabbi Kiva speaking, that we learn out from this pasuk, Shnayim Eidim, and Shloisha Eidim, another halacha. Uma Shnayim, just like with two Eidim, Nimtza Echad Mem Korav Apostle Edusam Betela. If in the case of two, one of them is found to be either a relative, which is Pasal Eidos, or any other psul that invalidates the Eidos, so the whole Eidos is bottled. Av Shloisha, saying with three, Nimtza Echad Mem Korav Apostle Edusam Betela. If one of the Eidos is found to be bottle or puzzle, that is, then the whole entire edus is bottle. How do I know that this is true even if it's 100 edim and one out of them is found to be puzzle, that it puzzles the whole entire edus? Edim. So it says in the Torah edim that it applies even when there's 100 edim. Now on this statement of Rabbi Kiva regarding Nimtza Echad Mem Karav puzzle, so there's a machlokes in the Mishnah when this applies. So Rabbi Yaisi says, when is this the case? B'dinei nefashis. Only regarding dinei nefashis, if one is found karav apostle, it passes the whole edus. Aval b'dinei maminis, when it comes to money matters, tiskayim ha'edus b'shar, then the edus could be kept as is with the other edus that are not found to be apostle. However, Rebbe says, echad dinei maminis ve'echad dinei nefashis. This halacha of one being found to be apostle, that it passes the whole edus, is whether it's money matters or a matter of nefashis, life or death. Now, ve'emisai, but when is this that it passes the whole edus? Bisman shehisru behen. If they gave a warning, if the ones that are joining the group are ones that gave a warning to the one that did the aveda. Avol bisman shehisru behen. But if they did not give asra, this karev or the apostle did not give any warning at the time when he witnessed what happened, then he's not part of the group. And Rabbi says a proof for this, a svara for this, because ma yasu shnei achim shero be'echad sheharigas hanefesh. What should two brothers do in a case where they saw somebody killing someone, and they're brothers, and therefore they're relatives that passel the whole group of Eidos? So now you won't be able to testify to give this person the chiyuv misa that he deserves for being a ritzeach. So you can't say that you always are going to be mishtatif the fact that they become one eidos just because they were mishtatif, just because they were there and they saw that that's enough of reason to make them one eidos. It doesn't work that way. It's only if they actually gave a hasra. Sagt die Gemara Omar Rava. So Rava said to explain the Mishnah that speaks about the group of Eidim, whether it's 2, 3, or even up to 100, that it's considered to be one group of Eidim. V'hu she'idu kulam b'toich kedei dibor. This is only if these Eidim all testified together b'toich kedei dibor, one after the other without a break. According to Rashi, Rava's statement goes on both halachas that it said in the Mishnah. The halacha that it said in the beginning of the Mishnah regarding the din of Eidim Zaymimin, that actually Yizuma Kulam, or the halacha that Rabbi Kiva said regarding Nimtza Echad Mem Karav Apostle, that it passes the entire group of Eidos. In both cases, it has to be that they said Eidos Teich Kedei Dibur. That's Rashi's pshat. However, Taisva says that Rava is only talking about the din of Eidim Zaymimin. On this, he's saying that Achi Yizumu Kulam, you have to be mazim, you have to say that, prove that they're all false. That only applies if they testify together. But regarding the halacha of nimtza echad mem karav apostle, it doesn't apply. Even if they didn't testify together, toich kedei dibur, if one will testify about this afterwards and he's found to be puzzle, it'll puzzle the entire group. And Taisa says the reason is because by that case of nimtza echad mem karav apostle, they saw the edus together, so therefore they're one edus. But in the case of edim zaymimin, it now turns out that they didn't see anything. So the only thing that would be mitzad of them is if they actually said the edus together, teich kedei dibur, and only on that is Rav saying his statement. Amalei Rav Achim Edifti leRavina. Rav Achim Edifti says to Ravina about this halacha of Rav Mechdi. Let's see. Teich kedei dibur heichidami. What's considered to be teich kedei dibur? That it's together right after the dibur of the one that spoke earlier. So that is, as it says in the Gemara many times, kedei shi'ilas talmid lerav. It's as long as it takes for a student to greet a teacher to say Shalom Alecha Rebbe or Shalom Alecha Rebbe Umaydi, which is just a second or so. If so, Meya Tuvava. If it's 100 Eidim that are testifying one after the other, there's a much longer period of time from one to the ones later, and definitely to the one last. How could you say that they are combined to one group? Amalei, so Ravina explained to him, Kol Chad V'Chad B'Toich Kedei Dibur Shel Chaveiroi. Each one of them begins to testify Toich Kedei Dibur of the one that completed his edus right before him, and therefore it is considered to be that they are all one continuation of Toich Kedei Dibur. And then the Mishnah went on to say that Rabbi Yossi says that this is by din nefashis, and Rashi points out, should have mentioned in the Mishnah, Rashi says that the reason why it's dafka by din nefashis because it says v'itzilu ha'eda, because there the Torah wants us to do whatever possible to save this person of giving him a chiyuv misa. So there we say that one that's puzzle will puzzle the entire group. But it doesn't apply by Dinei Mominus. It's a Chiddush, it's a unique concept, and we understand from Vitzilu way that the Torah wants this to apply only by Dinei Nefashis, not by Dinei Mominus. Okay, now, according to Rabbi Yossi, this is in a case where these Eidim said Eidus together because they saw what happened together, even if they didn't give a warning together, it doesn't matter. They're mitzvah to the Eidus, and therefore, they're gonna, if it is a Karev, he's going to passel. Rabbi disagrees though. Rabbi says it has to be dafka with a warning. So now the Gemara is going to ask on Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Only Rav Papa la Abaye. So Rav Papa says to Abaye, Elo meyato. If what Rabbi Yossi says is true, that any time there's a karev there, so then he's going to passel the whole eidos. If so, harug yatzel. The person himself, the victim that got murdered, he should save this reitzeach from getting a chiyuv misa, because he himself witnessed what happened. And he is a karev to himself, and therefore he can't be an edus about this story here. And he's mitzdaref to the edus according to Rabbi Yossi. So therefore he should save this person of getting a chiyuv misa. That's the Gemara. The case must be when he killed him from the back, and therefore the harog himself did not see what happened, and he can't testify about this. The Gemara nearby yatzel. In the case of Mishkav Zachar, when one had a forbidden relation with another man, so in such a case, the victim himself sees what's happening, and he should passel the edus because he's a karev to himself. And says the Gemara, also, when it happened from the back in a way that he did not see what he did to him, and therefore he can't testify about this. But how about the Ritzeach himself? The one, the murderer, or the one that did the Aveda by the Mishkav Zachar, the Roiva, he also could save himself from the Chiyuv Misa because he's an aid and saw himself what happened and he's karev to himself. And how could you have an Eidus any time to testify about a person to give him a Chiyuv Misa if there's always the person himself that you're trying to give a Misa that's part of the Eidus, and therefore there's a karev here. So Ishtik. So Abaye did not have an answer to this question of Rav Papa. Ki also lekamei Rava, when they came to Rava, so Rava answered, Amalei, Rava said to Rav Papa, that when the pasuk says by Eidos, Yakum Davar, Apishnai made him Yakum Davar, what does this mean, Yakum Davar? B'mekayimei Davar akasa medaber. The pasuk is saying that it only refers to the Eidim that are coming to testify about what happened, but not to the people that are involved in what actually happened there. Rashi says, Mekayim Dava means not the Oisei Hadavar, the ones that are involved in what actually happened itself. They're not mitzdaref to the Eidos to passel the Eidos. And therefore there's no question, not from the Roiva, not from the Nirva, not from the Hoirig, not from the Harug. That's Rashi's Pshat in the Gemara. According to Rashi's Pshat, the conclusion of the Gemara here is that only because of this drasha yakum davar and not oisei davar, therefore they do not passel the eidos. But the basis of the Gemara's question, of Papa's question, which was that just because there's a karev or pasel that was present at the time when it happened and he witnessed what happened, that would passel the entire group of eidos. Which means even if that karev does not actually show up to the bezdin to testify, to say eidos together with the others about this, but not just because he saw, he already passels the whole Eidos. And the Gemara sticks to that point. That's Rashi's Pshat. But Taisus disagrees, and the last Taisus on the Amud over here, Taisus says that the Pshat, when the Gemara says, Yokum Dovo b'mekaime dover akasim medaber, what the Pasuk is, what the Gemara is answering is that the whole basis of Rav Papa's question is incorrect. Rav Papa was saying that a Karev and Pasel will passel the Eidos because they were there together, they witnessed together. That's it, even if they didn't show up later to testify. And on that the Gemara answers, Rav explained him, no, it says, Yokim Dava b'mekaime Dava akasim medaber, that the whole psul of Nimtza Echad Mem Karev Pasel, that he will passel the whole group of Eidos, is if the Karev Pasel is Mekayim Dover, if he's testifying in the Bezdin about this. But if he only saw what happened, that's not going to passel the whole group of the Eidos. That's Taisus' Pshat in the Gemara. And there's a big raya to the pshat that Taisus says, because Rava, in the beginning of the Gemara here said, V'hu she'idu kulam b'toich kedei dibur. And so Rava is coming to say that a karev and pasel that passels, that's only if they testify together. According to Rashi's pshat, that goes even on the karev and pasel, that's only if they testify together. But according to what Rashi understands here in the Gemara, it shouldn't make a difference if they testify toich kedei dibur or not, if the karev and pasel was there b'shas it happened. So that itself passels, whether later they testify Toich Kedibur or not, even if they don't show up at all, it's still going to passel. So what does Rava mean to say before? According to Rashi, you have to say that Rav is coming to say that there's a psul, either if the Edom were there, the Krevim, that is, a Karev, whether he was there, that will passel, or even if he wasn't, and now he's coming to testify together, then it's also going to passel. And Rav was talking about a case where he's just coming to testify even if he wasn't there. So it's a different case. There's another thing that Taisus addresses, according to his shitta, that a karev and pasel will not passel just for the fact that he witnessed what happened. If he does not show up to testify later, so then how would we understand what it says in the Mishnah? What do two brothers do? That in such a case, two brothers witnessed what happened, so we can't give the chi of misa to this murderer. But the answer is simple. Let the brothers not show up to testify, or one of the brothers should not show up to testify, so there won't be a problem of karev pasel. So Taisva says that Rebbe, when he's asking this and he's proving his point, means to say, in a case where brothers saw what happened, and one brother will testify, and another brother will testify, and they're not going to be aware of each other that they're both testifying about this, it's going to end up ruining the whole case, and you won't be able to give this person chiyuv misa. So that's the problem Rebbe has, that since that could happen, then how could it be that we would stop this person of getting a chiyuv misa in such a kind of case? So, but those are the two general shittas here, how to learn this Gemara according to Rashi and Taisus. Okay, let's see the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yosi. So Rabbi Yosi said, "Bamed dvarim amurim v'chulu," and then Rabbi said, "Ma yasa shnei achim v'chulu," that by the case where there's two brothers that saw what happened, then we can't say that we're not going to give the chiyuv misa. So it must be only the one that gave the warning is mitzdaref to the group to passel if he's a relative. So the Gemara, what do we say to the Eidim to ask them, to figure out whether they were there or they actually are part of the Eidos because they came to testify and they gave a warning? Amar Rav, so Rav says, this is what we say to interrogate them to see when they witnessed, were they actually there as Eidim or not? Did you come just to see what's going on? Just to see what happened, or you came to actually testify about this. If they say that we came to testify, then then if one of them is found to be a relative or puzzle, it's mevatel the whole edus. But if they say lemechzi asu, that we only came to see what happened, but we had no intention to testify at all, then here we apply what Rebbe says, that if two brothers happen to see what happened when someone got killed, then in such a case, it's not going to invalidate the whole edus. Itmar, we learned the machlokes about the psak din. Omer Rav Yehuda Mashmuel halacha k'Rabbi Yosi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yosi, that this only applies to din and nefashis, but not regarding any other kind of edus, money matters or other edus. Rav Nachman says, halacha kerebi, the halacha is like Rebbe, that the halacha of one aid being found cut of apostle passes the whole eidos, applies both to dine mamanis and to dine nefashis. Okay, so Taisus over here discusses a famous thing that the Rishonim will speak about. If so, how could you ever have by a chasen, and by the kiddushin, and by the chuppah, when you have many relatives that are standing around, how could you have the kiddushin take effect if you have kreivim that are seeing the edus, and they'll pass the whole edus? If, according to Rav Nachman, we pass like Rebbe, that this applies not only to the edus of din and nefashis. And it's here that Taisa says that just the fact that they are witnessing, kreivim are witnessing what happened, does not pass the edus. It's only if they come and testify later. But according to Rashi, as I mentioned before, Rashi holds that even if kreivim, which is there, they will pass the edus. This is the reason why by chuppah the minig is that you designate two edim, even though everybody sees, but you have to designate two edim. Sometimes the Rav will announce to exclusion to all the others, so that should be dafka these two, that the others are not part of the edus at all, so they shouldn't pass all the edus. If two edim are seeing what happened from one window. So they see someone that is killing someone, and they see from one window. Another two edim are seeing what happened from a different direction, from a different window. And there's someone that's standing in the middle, and he's giving a warning to this person that is killing someone. So if some of one group and the other group can see each other, so then they're considered to be one edus. If they're one edus, what happens in such a case? If you are mazim part of the group, so then the einish of kashazamam will not apply until you're mazim the entire group. As we said before in the previous Mishnah, that if it's all one group of edus, you can't give the einish of kashazamam until you mazim all of them. But on the other hand, as Taisus explains over here, if you mazim a group of Edom that are by one window, and they're really one group with the Edom of the other window, they see each other, so then the Edus will be bottled. It's considered to be cut of apostle, and the whole Edus will be bottled. There'll be no Einish of Kashazama mer, but there also will not be any Chiyuv Misa that we're going to give to the person that they testified against him. That's the Pshat in the Mishnah here. There's a discussion in the Rishonim though about this, because seemingly the Mishnah is coming to say here this halacha regarding Edom Zaymimin, that if others come and are mazim, part of the group, it's really all one big group, and therefore there's no din of Edom Zaymimin. But anyways, there should not be a possibility for the din of Edom Zaymimin here, because basically what happens is you have two from one window, two that are watching from another window. They're really all one big group, and now another two Edom come along and say that these two Edom that were in this window, they are Edom Zaymimin. The other two that were by the other window, we don't know anything about. But these two that claimed that they were in this window, Imanu wa Yisim b'makom plani. But the thing is, this group of Edom that are coming to be mazim them are contradicted by the other group of Edom that come and testify from the other group of Edom from the other window that say, oh, we did see them from the other window, that they witnessed what happened together with us. So how would this anyways be a din of Edom Zaymimin if the Edom Zaymimin are contradicted by the other group of Edom here? So therefore the Ritva says, when it says there in the Mishnah that Miktsasan, Rayin, Elu es Elu, what it means is that not both of the Edom of one window see both of the Edom of the other window. One of them, one of the group, it could be a group that's larger than two people, one of the group sees one of the other group, and then they become one Edus. That's enough to combine them to be one Edus. So now when you have another group of Edom that comes along to be mazim, one of these groups of the Edom that saw from one window, You can't ask that they're being contradicted by another group of Edom that say that we did see them there. How can you say in one of if we did see them there? Because only one of them saw them. So they're not being contradicted from two Edom. Okay, now the next case of the Mishnah, V'im Lav. If the two sets of Edom that saw, one from one window and one from the other window, but they did not see each other, then these are two separate groups of Edom. And lefichach, and therefore, if nimtzas achas men ze memes, if one of these groups of Edom in one window was found to be a Edom zaymemin, so then we still have the other Edom in the other window that are not Edom zaymemin. These are two separate groups; they're not connected to each other. The halach in such a case would be hu vehein neheragid, that the person, the murderer, will be killed because there still are two Edom that say that he killed someone. The two Edom that claim that they were there and watched from one window, now they were found to be Edom Zaymimin, they will also be killed as Edom Zaymimin. Vashtiya Petura, the other group of Edom that testified the truth and they were not found to be false Edom, they are going to be potter. Rabbi Yosi says, La'olam ein erogin ad sheyu shnei edav masrim bay, that we can't say that there's two from one window, two from another window, and then there's someone in the middle giving asra, because the asra has to come from the Edom themselves. The person will not get any chiyuv misa until the Edom themselves are the ones that are warning him. Shenemar al pi shnayim Edom, that it has to be based on the words of these two Edom, and he darshans that al pi is referring to the asra, that they are the ones that warned him. Only then does he get misa. Davar acher, another pshat in al pi shnayim Edom, that it means Sanhedrin shemas mipi atorgimen, that when Bezdin hears the Eidos, they must hear it directly from the Edom themselves, that they are speaking in the language that the Bezdin knows, and not that the Edom are saying their Eidos and there's an interpreter that is saying over their words to the Bezdin. Sagt Gemara Amar Rav Zutre Bar Tuvia Amar Rav, Minayin le'Eidos miyechedes she'ipsula. From where do I know when you have Eidos, two Edom, but they did not see together? It's one that saw from one window and one that saw from another window. So how do I know that this kind of Eidos will be possible? Shenema, and this is regarding Din Nefashis, as we'll see, the Gemara will say. So Rav says, Rav Zutre Bar Tuvia, that is, the name of Rav says, Shenemar, Lo Yumas Alpi Eid Echad. The pasuk says you can't give misa based on the words of one Eid. So now, Ma Yechad. What is this pasuk coming to say that you can't give misa based on one Eid? If you'll say it literally means one Eid, well, that we see from the beginning of the pasuk. It says Al Pishnayim Eidim, that only Al Pishnayim Eidim Yumas Amei. So it says you need two. So why does it add again, but not according to one? Elamai Echad. What does Echad mean? Echad. If you have one seeing from one window, one seeing from the other window, you cannot combine them. That's the chiddush here. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned this in a Braisa as well. La Yumas Al Pi Eid Echad, that you can't give misa based on one Eid. Lahavi Shnayim Shirayim, I say. This includes even when there's two Eidim that see what happened, but it's Echad Mechalain Zeh, one Eid from one window, Ve'echad Mechalain Zeh, and the other one from the other window, that we cannot combine them to say the Eidus for this. Ve'ein Rayin Zeh Zeh, they don't see each other, these two Eidim. She'em Mitzdarfen, they don't combine. Braisa goes on to say another example, not only this case, even if two Edom saw what happened from the same window, but first one saw, and then he went away, and then the other one saw, they cannot be combined either to be two Edom. They did not see together at the same time. Now, on this edition of the second case in the Braisa, Omeleh Rav Papa Abaye, so Rav Papa asks Abaye, what's the chiddush here? Hashta now, when you have one that saw from one window and one that saw from the other, so each Eid saw the full action that happened. Let's say the Aritzeach, he killed someone, and they both saw the whole action. But nevertheless, you say, they cannot be combined because they didn't see together. If so, when you have one Eid and another Eid that are seeing from the same window, and they didn't see the whole entire act because one is coming after the other. So one Eid saw half of what happened and the other saw another half of what happened. Do you need to tell me that I can't use their Eidos to testify? None of them saw the whole thing that happened to testify at all. Amalei, so Abaye answered, Lo nitzrecha ela l'bayal serva. The case over here is that they are not seeing a case of someone that's a yiritzeach, rather they're seeing someone that's being bayal erva, a forbidden relationship, where here it's possible that one sees the beginning of the act, and what he saw in the beginning is enough and complete in order to give a chiyuv miseh, and then he went away, and another person came to that same window and saw the continuation or the completion of the act, and here that what he saw is also enough to give a chiyuv miseh. So they both saw enough to give a chiyuv miseh, and nevertheless, the Brais is saying that they cannot be combined to be two eidim together. And as Mefarshim explained, the reason why there's a bigger chiddush in this case over the case of when one sees in one window and the other sees in another window is because in this case, the two eidim that saw are aware that each one of them saw the story. They didn't actually see together, but you would think that the fact that one sees that the other one is witnessing what he just witnessed, that would be enough maybe to combine them. And therefore the Braisa says, not only in the first case where one sees from one window and the other sees from the other window, and they're not even aware from each other at all. Even in this case where each one knows that the other one saw, but they didn't see together, they cannot be combined. Amar Rava said, if the two that were seeing from a different window and they did not see each other, but they see the person in the middle that's warning the one that is standing in the middle. He's warning the one that is the murderer or the one that's Bayal Sa'erva, or the one that was warning saw them, then mitzdarfen. Then the two Eidim, each from a different window, can be combined to be one group. According to some Mefarshim, what Rava says here doesn't go only on this case about one aid and one aid, but it also goes back on the Mishnah when you have two from one window and two from the other window, that they will be combined this way. All right, so over here, the Gemara says, Rava says 2 points. If they see the Masre or the Masre sees them. If they see the Masre, so then you have two Eidim that will testify that they saw what happened and they saw the Masre, they saw the one that warned, so we can give a chiyuv miseh. When they did not... when they're not both coming to testify that they saw the Masra, but the Masra only saw them, how exactly this Masra could combine them is a little bit difficult to understand, because now we don't have two Eidim to say that the Masra saw them. You're going to have an Eidus to testify that the Masra actually saw them. The Masra himself is an Eid Echad. How is he going to be trusted that he saw them? That's a little bit of a problem. Okay, now the Gemara says, Rava added to this, Masra Sha'omru, the one that's in the middle in this warning, that we said that he will combine these two Eid Echads, or maybe the two Eidim from one window and two from another, that there'll be one group, Afilam Mipi Atzmai. That's even if it's the person himself, the victim that got killed there, that he himself gave the warning and they both saw him, that's enough to combine them. Or Afilam Mipi Ashed, or even if it's a Shin Dalet that gave a warning and they both saw this together, then that's enough to combine them. Rav Nachman said, Eidus miyuchedes, this halacha of one aid from one window and one aid from another window, ksheira b'dinim amanis. By money matters, this kind of Eidus is kosher. T'chsiv lo yumas al pi eid echad. The pasuk that we dashed before, that this case is not a good Eidus, is only, it says in the pasuk, yumas b'dinim nefashis hu, the eng ksheira. Only by issue of nefashis, it's not kosher. But regarding money matters, such an edus is kosher. But Rav Zutra asks on this, how could we say that by dinim mominus we're going to be more lenient about this? If so, regarding dinim nefashis, when you have two that are seeing from one window and two that are seeing from another window, then in this case, if we're going to combine them, it would come out to be a kula, that this we should save the Eidim in such a case where only one of the groups of Eidim from one window was found to be Eidim Zaymimin. It should be combined to be one group in order to save the Zaymimin and also this person, that the entire Eidus should be bottled. It should be considered to be one group, that it will be mevatel the entire Eidus. Now, Alamatnan, why did it say in the Mishnah, Hu v'heina ragin? That in such a case, when there's two from one window and two from the other window, they do not combine. It's considered to be separate eidos by din and nefashis, which will be what will result from this is that by din and nefashis we're going to end up being machmer to give the person that testified about a chiyuv misa, and also the two that were found to be eidim zayim to give him a chiyuv misa. We're being very machmer about this. Now Rashi here says the basis of the Gemara's question is usually by din and nefashis we look to find any way that we can be more lenient, vitzilu ha'eda, to try to save. Over here in this case though, based on what Rav Nachman says, that the concept of edus miyachedes does not apply by dine nefashis, they're not good edus, only by dine mominus it is. In this case where you have two in one window and two in the other, and you will mazim only one group and not the other, by the fact that he's saying that we do not combine them to be one edus, they remain separate, it comes out of tremendous chumrah, that we're giving a chi of misa to three people. We should have applied this kula to say by dinei nefashis as well, that we should combine them and then save three people. V'itzilu ha'eda. Kashya. This remains a question the Gemara does not answer. Rabbi Yossi, going on to what Rabbi Yossi said, that the Eidim are the ones that have to give the warning. The Gemara asks him this, could it be possible that Rabbi Yossi holds this idea that the Eidim have to give the Asra? Does Rabbi Yossi Bechlal hold of the concept that there must be a warning? But Vatnan, we learned in a Mishnah later, it says, Rabbi Yossi Omer Hasayne Nerag, in a case where we know that one murdered another, and the person says that he was a shegig, but we don't accept him as a shegig. We know that he's his enemy, and therefore he's going to be killed even without a warning about this, because we know that he's a warning. It's like, it's clear to us that he intended to kill him and he was warned about this. So which means Rabbi Yossi holds, you don't necessarily need any hasra at all. Amalei, so Rabbi answered him, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudahi. That Rabbi Yossi quoted there is a different Rabbi Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. The Tanya, as we learned in another place in the Brayso, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, Chaver ain't tzarech hasra. A Chaver, a Talmud Chacham that knows all the halachas, he doesn't need any warning. The entire concept of a warning is in order to make clear to the one that's doing the Aveda that he should know what's allowed, what's not allowed, so it should be clear that he shouldn't be a shegig. But in a case of a chaver that knows the halacha, knows what he's doing, in such a case, you don't need a warning at all. That's Rabbi Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda. But our Mishnah is not Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, it's a different Rabbi Yossi, and therefore he says the Eidim must give the warning. Another pshat the Mishnah said, Bezin should not hear the testimony from the Eidim through an interpreter. Says the Gemara, Hanu la'oizi, with those that spoke a different language, that the Asul Kameda Rava, they came to testify in front of Rava. Oiki Rava Torgumen Beinayu. So Rava put an interpreter between them to communicate with the Eidim. So the question is, how could Rava do this? The Mishnah says that Bezin cannot hear testimony from an interpreter. As the Gemara, Rava understood the language that was speaking, so they didn't need the interpreter to understand them. He understood directly. But he understood the language, but he didn't understand the language well enough to be able to respond and to communicate with them. So that's the only reason why he had the interpreter. And the Gemara now concludes with another story, which is connected to what we learned before about a case where you have a karev that it will passel the whole edus. Ilah and Tuvia, to two individuals by the name of Ilah and Tuvia, they were testifying about a loan. So as Rashi here says, they are Eidei Halva. They came to testify that this loan happened. Now, Kreve the Arvahav. Now in this loan, besides the borrower and the lender, there was also a guarantor. If the borrower does not pay, he will pay up this loan. They were relatives to this guarantor. Now the question is, does this invalidate the Eidos altogether because one of the parties involved in their Eidos, they are a relative of his? So now because of this, so Rav Papa Rav Papa thought to say, that their Eidos for the lender, for the borrower, they are not relatives at all. And therefore their Eidos could be accepted as a good Eidos, even though there's a third party involved, the guarantor, that they are his relatives, but that's a separate thing. As for the Leiv and the Malva, they're not relatives. So it's good. Amalei Rav Huna b'Reid Rav Yeshua, so Rav Huna b'Reid Rav Yeshua said, Rav Papa, less Leila Leiva, if the Leiva has no money to pay, Lav Basa Arve, Ozil Malva, won't the lender go to the guarantor? So if so, the fact that they're craving to the guarantor, he's an involved party in this Eidos. They're coming to testify about the loan. The Eidos about the loan is Eidos about the Loiv and the Malva, and also about the Orev, about the guarantor. and since they're craving to him, so therefore their edus will be entirely possible. This is Rashi's pshat in the Gemara, that they are coming to testify about the loan, which affects both. It tells us that the loiva owes the money, and it also tells us that there's an orev here, that if he doesn't pay, we'll have to pay the money. There's a big discussion here, and the Rishonim, the Rosh, talks about this barichis, and he asks, why wouldn't we apply over here the concept of palgin and dibura, if they are testifying about the loan, and the loan has one part that's relevant for the loiva and the malva, and another part that's also relevant for the orev. So why wouldn't we say that their edus is accepted for the loiva and the malva, but it's not accepted for the orev, because for that these are karev, and we should divide their edus. Because of this, he brings from the Raiva the different pshat in the Gemara, but from Rashi, it's clear that in such a case, you do not apply the concept of palgin and dibura, and because they are relatives to the Arev, the entire edus will be apostle and bottle, and because of the halacha of nimtza echad mehem, because they are craven, so the whole edus will be bottle.